Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to our viewers. In today's episode of Defending the Edge podcast, we are going to talk about a few various different things, including voice-to-text AI helping scientists predict earthquakes, more information about DeepSeek being found to share user data with TikTok parent company ByteDance. We're going to talk about the Basta internal chat leaks, Pirate Fight game on Steam with info stealing malware, and more. And so to start, I think the most interesting thing on here is the AI helping scientists predict earthquakes. This is a hard thing to kind of wrap my mind around while reading the article. Have you guys read that, or what are y'all thoughts on that?
I did hear about it. I think it's very crazy right off the bat. You hear AI helping predict earthquakes. That's a very insane statement. Breaking it down a little bit more, I believe it has to do with the volcanoes, and then there's researchers who are modifying, this AI to correctly predict timing of slips during repeating collapse sequences. So I think somehow they're able to do that and then use some seismic waveforms. I don't know. It's way too technical for my brain to process, but it does sound crazy.
I agree. I think the idea of it, when I first read the article, I kind of never imagined that something AI would be capable of is using AI to use like a voice to text that then turns in, voice to text that they use to analyze seismic waveforms like we're talking about, to then be talking about like, oh, we're going to predict, the movement of tectonic plates, or try to predict the movement of tectonic plates for earthquakes and volcano eruptions. I never think I imagined AI to be that useful. And I think as we kind of see how many things we see AI develop with in the last year alone, that I just think it gets more insane as we keep going.
Yeah, it was to break it down to like maybe a term that we can understand. The reason it was able to like detect the earthquakes, which by the way, in the article, it says it can only detect real-time earthquakes, which obviously isn't that helpful at the moment, but it says that the seismic wave data is similar to the sound waves, which I don't know how any of that works, but I was like, okay, I mean, all right, comparison. But just how AI can learn to do the speech patterns, it can learn to do Earth's movements, which I was like, I can't wrap my mind around this, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like machine learning, right? So the machine learning at AI, you just kind of, as we go, we're going to learn more of the extent of really what machine learning is capable of. And it seems like, fairly new, fairly untested at this point, but it seems like, maybe the extents could be pretty limitless as we kind of develop and test everything that is capable.
Well, so I know you said that it can only predict real-time alerts, right? Or not alerts, like predict real-time earthquakes, right?
Yeah.
As the ground's shaking. Well,
yeah.
Guess what's happening?
That's what I was going to say. Like, how do those words go together? Predict in real time. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it is, I think, a way, an attention grabber. But it is interesting because, it's going in personal experience and not cyber. I live in the Bay Area. We have earthquakes quite frequently, and I never know when they're coming. And there was this one time a few months back where I got an alert on my phone saying, like, earthquake incoming, take cover. And I was like, what the heck? I'm like, you're warning me this time. And the earthquake was nowhere near me. It was like 50 miles away. But I was like, okay, well, nice. But I didn't feel it. So I don't know if that had anything to do with any of it. But it's interesting how that works, how it told me there was an earthquake coming. All right, so moving on to other things that are more on the cyber threat intelligence side, there was another article I was reading about ransomware gangs encrypting systems a mere 17 hours after initial infection. Was definitely interesting to me because when I think of like ransomware gangs and the encryption, I think of them they get the initial infection and they stay there hidden for a long time, gathering information, stealing everything they can. But then, in this one, they're doing it 17 hours after infection, or I was reading there's specific threat actors like Akira doing it a mere 4 to 6 hours after infection, it was interesting to me. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I think that was crazy. It's very interesting. I think exactly what you said, right? So we're used to threat actors, taking their time and focusing more on encryption of the data. So I think it also proves to show like a really significant tactical shift that these threat actors are undergoing, right? So because they are moving from less of a focus on encryption to, it seems like now, data exfiltration. I think it's very interesting. I think it's just showing the process and the shifts there.
Speaking of, do you guys know what TTR means in relation to this while I was reading the article?
Yeah, it's time to ransom.
Okay, good test. Good test. Yeah. So time to ransom. That was a specific thing I was learning about. But no, it's definitely a change in tactics going from, I think their exploitation, it probably definitely shows that their exploitation has improved if they're encrypting or doing stuff that fast.
Yeah, I agree. The kind of double extortion method, right? We've seen it kind of come in wave and in a storm. I feel like over the last year, 2 years, you've just seen double extortion is the number one method used in pretty much every ransomware we see for every different type of article, data breach, that comes of time. But it just seems like, not to beat the dead horse, we already talked about it a couple of times here. You both mentioned that the time to ransom, TTR, is just seems like, consistently getting lower. I feel like, I guess in my head, when I think about like, what's the stigma around ransomware? You're going to gain initial access through whatever methods they're going to take, whatever technique, sub-technique, and then through that, what are they going to do? They're going to hide for days, weeks, months on end as they collect whatever data or try to elevate their privileges. But it seems like ransomware is kind of getting away from that identity to where it's like almost kind of like a smash and grab now, where it's like to think that they can do this in 14, 6, 4 hours, depending on the specific ransomware group is, one, it's terrifying, but also it's super interesting at the same time to see like where are the defense strategies that apply to ransomware, where have we progressed versus where threat actors progressing? Are we failing where we're supposed to be improving on the opposite end of where they're improving where we're supposed to be failing type thing? So I think the idea behind it is always, both sides of a coin.
Yeah, definitely. You touched on, we have to kind of view the differences of what they're doing versus what we're doing. So I did want to use that, as a little segue just to talk about how you can counter these threats and how you can, work to protect yourself from, the shifts in this with ransomware, right? So we have a couple things here. Real-time monitoring, right? So, detecting anomalies and different things around the clock will be able to help you out extremely. Also, layered defenses, combining EDR with strong networks, segmentation, and regular patch management is huge. Same with user education, just making sure that you're training employees to recognize phishing attempts and other types of common attack vectors, because these ransomware groups are going to continue to not only evolve but refine their methods. So it is important, just as you said, Gabe, right, to look at it from both ends of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
On the topic of ransomware actors and doing the double extortion everything, what are your thoughts on when a ransomware actor demands a ransom, they pay it, and then you don't get the correct decryptors? Because this was something I was reading today, and I was like, wow, I actually haven't thought about that before, of threat actors not following a moral compass. It's really bad when I say that out loud, but you know what I'm saying.
I do get what you're saying. I think my general idea when we talk about it is that you're talking about moral compass with people who are stealing your information and trying to sell it back to you.
But
there's
it sounded really bad when I said it out loud.
There's no there's no rules in love and war, right? Obviously that changes, but you don't pay a ransom, you don't follow demands, is kind of my opinion on the whole stake.
But I asked this because an article that was coming out today, or at least at the time we're recording, Basta, a lot of their internal chats were leaked online or on Telegram by another threat actor individual. I don't have the name of them written down or anything. I'm kind of going off memory here, but reading it, a lot of their internal chats were leaked. You can see internal chats of them arguing amongst themselves about not paying the ransom or being mistaken. Give me like 2 seconds. I could even pull up a couple examples of this. But it was super interesting to me because Basta, I feel like that's a household name for people in this field at this point. And then reading about them not paying the ransom, I wasn't previously tracking. So let's say, for example, they've been arguing over, had a tense discussion about an unstable partner, saying so-and-so is going to ruin our partnership. They need a volume for phishing campaigns. So I'm trying to find this specific example. There's a CEO that said his payment was sent, and then people inside their team are skimming off the top, referring to Basta's team. And they're basically throwing accusations of internal theft and missing payments within Basta, which was, wow,
So it's almost...
None of that sounds shocking to me.
No, it's almost like the members inside are the ones arguing with each other over this. Well, obviously they're arguing with each other. You just said that. But I mean, like whenever it comes to the missing payments or things of that nature. Like, it seems like it's a very internalized issue, which, I mean, that's a problem they have to work with. I don't know how to help with that.
I mean, it's an interesting thought, right? Because I think about it, is the reasoning behind, these varying decryption keys, or the ones that aren't correct for these people that are paying the ransomware, is it behind the fact that people are skimming money off the top internally? So then it's creating this void between whoever is in Black Basta, these threat actors, where they're like, well, if I don't get my money, my split based on whatever percentage, I'm not going to send it until I get whatever money I'm allotted for, And then does a potential, split of Black Basta into multiple threat actors create, a bigger group? Does it create tensions between groups where groups are now targeting each other? Just interesting to think about, how does something small, I mean, obviously money to them isn't small, but how does that idea surrounding money and tension kind of split, and does it go anywhere from there?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. But no, I was reading further into the article, and it said the Black Basta has been really inactive so far this year because of internal conflicts. It's like, oh, and now their chats are leaked out of all these internal conflicts. And when I hear like a leak, I'm like, oh, client data's leaked. But no, it's all their internal chats and arguing.
Yeah.
So fair point.
It almost feels like, with them being not as active, right? It almost feels like it's kind of like a little self-motivation. It's kind of like somebody did it on purpose, to me, is the way I interpret. Like, we haven't been very active. We're arguing over money. What's the best way to get everybody in line? Let's, take a little hit to maybe our potential reputation and how people view us as threat actors if we say, hey, look at us, we're arguing over the basis of our money and what we're doing with our information, Maybe everybody takes that kind of, as awful as it is, they take their own accountability to be like, you know what? Now we're really going to go after people and we don't care about the amount of money.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. Almost like manipulation tactic.
Yeah, exactly. Like, somebody within Black Basta is trying to manipulate the group in a way to become more active, It sounds like there's kind of a problem with greed already going on, is the way I interpret it.
Yeah, it is curious how their internal chats were leaked. But
yeah, I would love to be hands-on on those chats. That would be interesting.
Yeah, it was, unfortunately, all this stuff is in Russian, but I know that cybersecurity firms and researchers were flocking to these chats trying to get it while it was available. The download link is since unavailable, but no, fair point.
Well, moving along, we're talking about specific threat actors and different types of, I want to say, motivations. Have you guys heard about No Name 05716? I'm probably not pronouncing that right. They have a lot of numbers. Have you guys heard about them?
Another Russian actor. I know.
Different.
Yeah,
we're not talking about China in this episode.
I know. We normally talk about China. I guess it's just time to branch out a little bit, right? So we have No Name with all those numbers, like I 5716. They are pro-Russian hackers, as Andrea said. And they've been, I want to say, they're fairly new. I don't know how new to be exact, but I do want to say they've been active as of recently, focusing on Italian banks and airports with waves of DDoS attacks. So your distributed denial of service attacks targeting those key Italian organizations. Very interesting. You can read more into it, but the motivation part I did want to touch on. It seems as if, and please argue with me on this if you guys think differently, but I think that it's almost like they're coming at their attacks from more of an emotional angle. So they're frustrated with the situation, so they're coming in and trying to take. You look like you have something to say, so I'm going to pass it to you.
Sorry, I don't like interrupting, but no, yeah. Yeah, I like the way the emotional back. I'm sorry. I didn't want to throw you off your train. No, yeah, it was exactly that, though. I looked into that specific article before this of the No Name threat actor. I'm just going to call them No Name. I'm not going to call them all their little numbers. But they are known for DDoS attacks, like you said. And in fact, to take it further, they have what looks like a DDoS project called DDoS IA. Anywho, the Italian thing, they targeted the Italian president of the website after the Italian president called them or referred to their actions against Ukraine as the Third Reich, right? I don't know how to pronounce that.
My God.
And they, in response, reacted toward that. Their feelings were hurt to it. And that's all they're about, is targeting people that say negative things about them, is what I wanted to say. It's literally all about targeting people that just talk against Russia. So it blurs the line, though, between the hacktivism or state-sponsored or everything. And That's all I really wanted to say was this. It's interesting reading about threat actors that have their feelings hurt about these type of things.
Yeah, it seems like a commonality in this episode.
Bouncing off that too, right? So not only are they, taking that retaliation approach like we were talking about, but this particular attack that, I'm talking about, the officials have confirmed over on their side that services were restored quickly and there was no significant impact on operations. So that just proves even further to me that they don't really care what they're doing. They're just going into it with that emotional aspect.
Yeah, I agree. From the perspective of not having the exact, I guess situational awareness of what the motive was behind it, that's really what it sounds like, right? It's like they definitely had the idea that they were like, hey, you're going to talk bad about us. This is exactly what, this threat actor group, I guess, promotes themselves on. The fact that, people who make claims or statements about Russia, we're here to prove you wrong. But I think it just further increases their rep that this is what they're built upon. Whatever the geopolitical situation is between Ukraine, Russia, you said it was the Italian president, correct? Right? Whoever has an opinion, essentially, is a target. Switching gears, we talked a little bit about all different types of threat actors so far. We talked about Russia, but I want to talk about something a little closer to home. I'm a gamer. I have my own desktop. I like to play video games. I have a Steam account. In recent time, I've seen this game come across Steam that's now removed, but it was called Pyrify. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but essentially they had a malware stealer that was, got to the Steam marketplace and then I'd have to fact check the amount of downloads to where people were downloading this game and pretty much infecting themselves with malware through what they thought was a secure source in Steam.
Well, that opens up questions for me because it was a game put onto Steam with malware. So does Steam not check games that are uploaded for malware? That's like the big question it makes me, because I use Steam. I play video games and I download random games too. And does Steam not check it? That's just my big thought for this.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was coming from too, because I'm not a gamer, but my husband is. So like there is those rare, those like rare occasions where I'll hop on Steam and try and download free games. So that's kind of where I was coming with too, is do they not check for this? Because I mean, that gets me scared to start, going on there and experimenting as well.
For sure. I think it, can highlight the idea that, you think somebody's maybe like an indie producer, which like, they're not backed by some large organization or company that produces the game. And, you're like, oh, the idea, this game looks cool. I'm going to download and give it a try. And then suddenly, we talked about it before. Maybe you're getting, the double extortion ransomware. It's not exactly 4 to 6 hours. It's more like 4 to 5 minutes, whatever it takes to download this game.
That would be so tragic, downloading a game and ransom.
Yeah, see, but like that idea, it's still plausible. Like, obviously this happened once. Does Steam have those policies in place? Maybe not now. And I haven't seen anything that like has publicly been put out about information about it. So maybe something to look forward to in the future, but I don't know. It's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Definitely all of our users playing games need to be a little more cautious on the fake games or free games that they download. Yeah, I would say the vetting process, not perfect on Steam if this got through. Okay. Well, moving on to then another just light topic that we've talked about here and there really quick. I don't have a big gist on this, but I know DeepSeek is all we've been talking about lately, but I wanted to mention it just really quickly. I read an article earlier today about DeepSeek found to be sharing the user data with TikTok parent company ByteDance, which I was like, oh, okay, I mean, there's already so much controversy about this. And I was like, that's super interesting since US obviously has a ban going on, which has since been unblocked. But I read more into it. The data that's actually been shared isn't like what data. Data definitely has been shared, but what data has been shared is not known yet. But point is, it has been shared with TikTok, which is crazy because, they seem like two sides of a different coin or same coin or however the saying goes. So it definitely stood out to me.
I didn't know anything about that until you said something. So that's insanely interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I trying to take it in when I think about it, because I think about it in the sense that it's like, two heads to the same beast, kind of another analogy I'll give, where you think about DeepSeek and everybody thinks, this is the China-backed, AI, or now we're talking about TikTok, China-backed data platform. They're stealing all of our information. We're giving them to the same parent company, is one platform more user-friendly where, they're appearing nice, on that TikTok aspect. United States and the consumers, we love TikTok and everybody utilizes it obviously it got banned for 24 hours and came back. So the idea that, maybe we're working side by side and, we're trying to kind of take a little advantage of the American population for what, that cache of information really is, that's kind of where my head goes.
Yeah. I mean, DeepSeek has, I think, since this been banned in South Korea following the discovery. So, I mean, if they're banning it, it's something we should definitely look into as well, following all this controversy.
That was going to be my next question, was if there's anything out there currently about the U.S. trying to ban DeepSeek. So very, very good.
Not that I know of. Yeah, and I say not that I know of for the U.S., but South Korea did do it.
For the portion to also interject really quick before we change topics, I know we had been in the kind of review or the 45-day window when we had TikTok kind of reinstated. Do we know where we're at along the lines of our review period of TikTok being banned again? Or, obviously now we're talking about DeepSeek being banned.
No, but I'm very excited to see all of the tragic goodbye TikTok videos that pop up on my timeline again once that does come around.
Fair. It is entertaining to say the least. Gives us something to talk about.
That is true.
On that, though, then more information to follow. Once we know, we'll be sure to bring it.
Well, I just have one more thing to mention. I think we're nearing the end of our episode here today, but I think we briefly mentioned it in a previous episode, or if you follow us, we've released blog posts about this and mentioned it numerous times already, but there's a large scam going around with tolls. Trying to think of the best way to say this. So how you're on your phone and you get scam messages. Everybody gets phishing messages all the time, scam messages. Well, this one it's falsified from different toll vendors, EasyPass being one. There's some others out there as well, but essentially they're saying that you owe money and you need to pay it as soon as possible. And then of course there's that handy dandy link in there. I don't know if you guys have any touch points on this, but it's not going away anytime soon. I think we talked on it. When did we talk on it? I think it was a month ago.
I think so. Sometime around that time frame when we first saw it.
Yeah, I received a couple different ones on it. I think one was if I didn't pay the fee, I'd lose my driver license the following day, basically. I was like, oh, well.
The following day?
Yeah.
That's a lot of heads up. Thanks, man.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, well, it almost got me. I was looking at him wait, the following day? What the heck? No. And then also I have a fast track set up so it automatically pays anyways. But I was like, all right, that's a lot of urgency. This is, because the phishing message looks legitimate, but there's so much urgency in it that it can't be true.
Exactly, yeah. Some of that information that we're talking about too, I feel like we had kind of seen the trend going, but it's interesting to see where we'll say the general public picks up on it now, where in the last couple of days I've seen on the news, that now this FastPass scheme is making it to the news where I'm we reported on this so long ago. It's interesting to see the trend of, how wide is the phishing campaign going and spreading? Because I feel like I've probably gotten 5 or 6 of these text messages now throughout the weeks. So the first time I looked at it, I was like, oh, maybe I did take a toll bridge the other day and I didn't pay. And then I realized, I was like, no, I know what this is,
Yeah. I feel like everybody's been getting them. I think it started on the East Coast, moved to the West Coast, and now everybody across the country. So keep an eye out. It's not going away anytime soon. At least it doesn't look like it.
Because it's a really good campaign. It reminds me of the other email campaign that we talked about months ago about when threat actors will send a Google image of your house saying, I know what you did, yada, yada, yada. There's spyware in your account now. And it's that's a really good campaign. And it creates such a sense of panic that it's not going around and it's not going away anytime soon because of how effective it is.
Yeah.
It was the Hello Pervert scam is what the one you were talking about. So that idea that it's, the mass, they send it out to mass people and it's built upon that idea of fear. I don't want to lose my driver's license. I gotta get to work. I gotta be able to use my car.
Effective.
XYZ. Yeah. Exactly.
So it'll be around a while. So that does wrap what we have for today. We will have our next episode again in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, I will not be there as a host. I just come in here and there to remind you that I exist. But no, but Lyndon should be back the next episode, so you'll get to see him again. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.